Greetings, everyone. It's time for another installment of Book Club. This is becoming one of my favorite things that I do every single month because I like to talk about books. And you guys ask me really good book questions all the time. So it gives me an opportunity to spotlight some of my faves. This month, we are talking about one of my favorites, Stephen Pollington's Leechcraft Early English Charms, Plant Lore and Healing. This originally came out in 2000. It's from Anglo-Saxon books, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. There are several reasons why I love this book, and I'm going to share a few of them with you now by going through the index first. This is easily the most approachable and concise and well-organized exploration of early English plant folklore that I've ever found. Not only do you have some Materia Medica style A to Z of plants, but the cross references into which manuscripts and even which bits of lore they've come from is pretty much invaluable. For me, as somebody who researches this stuff, this book as a starting point saves me literally hours of time. Stephen has done all the footwork, so I'm able to get in, look up a plant and see where this plant is referenced in different texts and manuscripts, and then kind of go deeper and deeper from there. If you do our monthly plant spirit journeys, you will notice that every single monograph I write references this book. It's because there's a wealth of information here, and even if Stephen doesn't talk about the exact herb that we are working with, there are references to herbs in that family or that genus, or ways that herbs similar have been worked with, and it allows me to cross-reference and really edify our contemporary plant spirit practices. So, A to Z, very, very cool. That makes this, for me, pretty much invaluable as a reference to individual plants and their related lore. But there are two things in this book that I really get excited about. First is that Stephen has translated 3 Old English manuscripts that focus almost exclusively on plant lore. So first, we get the Lachnunga, of course, one of my favorites, and a manuscript that was really pivotal in getting me excited about the way that I do plant spirit work. And so if you are not familiar with Lachnunga, this is an Old English manuscript that is the home of the famous 9 herbs charm, right? And I've done some classes on 9 herbs charm. You can go look that up. Hidden, concealed within the 9 herbs charm and the greater Lachnunga is so much perspective on what sorcerous animism looks like when it's applied to plant spirit work, and also what it looked like to the folks who we now call the early English Anglo-Saxons. So very cool. Next, we have the Herbarium 5. This is an herbal manuscript, mostly focusing on medicinal lore, but there is, of course, charm and magic in there, because at this point in our history, we still were not seeing a big separation between the magical and the medicinal. So the Herbarium 5 is a manuscript that is very inspirational to me, and the way that it's organized, the way that its approach is, has really informed a lot of the way that I do spiritual herbalism. And last but not least, we have Bald's Leech book. And so a living, breathing green grammar, green grimoire, if you would, of Leechcraft, of working with medicinal herbs, and very practical, very applicable. I have worked various recipes and various approaches from Bald's with great success even to this day, and so I cannot recommend it enough. So those 3 manuscripts that are really generally very hard and boring and dry to wade through, Stephen has represented in a way that is so beautifully organized and so beautifully approachable. Can't recommend enough. And the second part of this that I get really excited about is the Appendix 4 on charms and Galder, and lots of references to charms and spells around plants with, of course, the 9 herbs charm is very much focused there, but various charms for everything from swarming bees to charms against a dwarf. You have to protect yourself. So all of that is there. Causes of disease section is really interesting too, looking at elf shot as a primary cause for many disease states, seeing that somebody has offended the fair folk, the neighbors, and looking at it that way. There's a whole section on amulets, which I really like, and then it wraps up with an appendix on tree lore. Several trees explored in depth through the lens of early English, Anglo-Saxon tree lore. So this as a reference book is irreplaceable for me, and it is probably one of the lore books that I turn to most frequently. There are certainly others, but this is all the hard work has been done. Everything is organized, it's alphabetized, it's indexed, and previous to me getting this book, going through early plant lore and StarCraft and all these other books that I love, it was a huge chore that sometimes took hours of research, of flipping through, of cross-referencing linguistics and etymology and figuring out which name was for which herb and making sure that was the right herb. You don't have to do that. So if you were interested in the plant lore of England, of the British Isles, if you're interested in Anglo-Saxon plant lore, Stephen Pollington, and I will mention while we're here that he's also written a bunch of other really cool books. I actually have pretty much everything he's written on my bookshelves. So lots about Anglo-Saxon deities and Anglo-Saxon paganism and even Anglo-Saxon linguistics. So very good geeky stuff, which I love. Again, Stephen Pollington, Leechcraft from Anglo-Saxon books. Came out in 2000, but the most recent version was printed in 2011. Go out, buy the book, support this guy. Let me know what you think.